You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Lou Del Pree.
Well, we got stiffed again.
Is it Tuesday already?
God, man, I tell you. So, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to do a little research in here and troubleshooting because one of our platforms is not streaming. But I'll figure that out here in a minute. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Nothing's Off the Table. And we were supposed to have a guest once again tonight. I had corresponded with them earlier in the week. Everything was good to go. And I don't know if there is a confusion of the time difference, but alas, he's not here.
Yeah, and just to throw this out there to anybody who was looking at the promos and stuff for the videos. Well, first of all, how you doing, Andy?
I'm doing good.
Second of all, back to what I was getting at. But if it is a mix up in the time difference, we'll certainly reschedule and bring our guests back around
For sure.
If that's the case, because I know that happens to me a lot, like today
And last week.
and last week.
But who's counting?
Yeah. So here's the funny thing about things like that, and this happens to me all the time, right? I'll be thinking of somebody, right? I'll be like, I haven't called Andy in a while. I'm gonna reach out to, and then Andy calls me, and I'm like, shit, he beat me to it. Now if I told him I was just thinking about him, it's gonna sound cheesy, lame, like I just made it up, all that stuff. That happens to me all the time. I'm always like, I give so and so a call, and then all of a sudden they hit me up, and I'm like, well, now I can't say I had the idea first.
Well, no, that happens to me all the time too, man. I don't think it's cheesy. It's like, it's crazy. It's, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, fate, the universe, whatever.
Right. So earlier today, when you called 2 minutes before my alarm was going to go off to come in and check on this.
Oh, geez.
So he's like, hey, did you forget? And I'm like, sure did. But I didn't even bother to say, which is why I set an alarm 2 minutes from now, because you beat me to it and probably wouldn't believe it anyway.
No, probably not.
Yeah. It was one of those moments.
So, like you said, if it was one of those instances where he just time was misconstrued, whatever, we'll get him back. But I guess it happens. What do they say? That's showbiz, or I don't know. For all
right.
3 people watching right now, which happen to be me.
Yeah.
Maybe you. I don't know.
No, so interestingly enough, last week we talked a little bit about the MilSim I joined, right? We were talking about the game.
Yes.
I play this game. They have this military environment. It's growing. It is growing. So in the last week since we talked, they got 60 new people who joined. That's 60
Damn.
new members of the community, civilian and military people. And it's just very interesting. It's very, I never realized how many people, desire to have that military experience that for whatever reason never joined. You know what I mean? But there's a large population of civilian people. They love it. They enjoy it. They love it.
I guess, yeah, I'm with you. I don't understand it either. I haven't lived it, so shit, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Why would you want? No, but
right?
Yeah. I mean, no, but you know what? I in all honesty, I always say, the Navy's very good to me. Even in times that I didn't think so.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, but yeah, I find it interesting that there's a large portion of the civilian population that desires that type of experience, and gets it in the MilSim environment. And it's always interesting, we'll be flying or patrolling or doing whatever, and just like in real life, these things take forever, and you're talking and you're shooting the shit and solving the world problems, and unlocking keys to the universe on these convoys, right? I mean, it's the weirdest conversations take place, and that's what's going on, in the game, and to just hear these guys talk about, how much fun they're having, and asking questions like, how real is X or Y? Or, you'll hear them make a comment and then you chime in with the reality, right? Like, for example, we were talking about weapons, and everybody loves the SCAR in the game. And I was trying to tell guys, they were asking about, some of the civilians were asking, what the military does with the scar. Okay, I've been out of that type of environment for a very long time. Okay, but so that's why I caveated what I said. I said, but when I was there, the scar was deployed. Most people didn't want it because it was too heavy and just a little awkward.
Mhm.
It functions just like an M4, though. Everything was put sort of in the same place. So all your years of training, which is why the military chose to go with that version of the weapon, even though there were others that were better. But, operators were having trouble, getting off their original initial reactions on how to clear, how to load, how to.
Well, of
rack.
course, yeah.
Yeah, so they just decided it was better to go with that. But I said it was too heavy, and then it just rained down on me, like "F you, you don't know what you're talking about," blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
oh
well,
boy.
maybe I don't. I don't know. It was a long time ago. I'm just telling you what I know. When I was at the armory, the guys were saying I don't want it. I just want my M4 because I don't. It's too heavy. It's bulky. I don't like how it sits.
What was their I mean, had they served?
I don't know. I don't know everybody's backstory. I mean, some may not. But a lot of people, a lot of people confuse the game with reality because you do get such a real experience. In fact, I just read a message, and I'll leave it private because you have to be a member of the community. But somebody just put a message in the community saying that they had a great time, but they're going to need to take a break. Their anxiety is coming back.
Oh wow.
From a lot of my very first patrol in that game, I got in a car, a Humvee. We drove out the gate. The first Vic within 50 yards blew up, all 4 KIA. Second one pushed past, and then the comms blew up with all the traffic, and I was like, that's yeah, push past, and then the comms start blowing up. and then then the training takes over. You know who's trained and who isn't. And that was how that milsim is. So when he posted that and shared that, I thought that was very brave, and I thought that was very important to pay attention to in my own experiences in life to make sure I'm watching, how I'm playing and how I'm reacting after I play.
That's very interesting, man.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, a lot of militaries use this. I was talking to one of the programmers, and he said it's based off Arma 3, which the Canadian military and a couple others put money into and have their forces train on, and some U.S. Army uses it.
Huh.
Probably theory or something.
Should probably keep that in mind myself.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, it's fun. You go down memory lane, it's a nice little trip.
Yeah, I just speaking of oh Jesus, I just sent Mark Bear. I sent him a text that wasn't supposed to go to him, it was supposed to go to Isabella, and he's like, "Who's Alma?" Sorry, Bear.
Yeah, well. He hit me up earlier looking for your number.
Oh yeah. We had a nice little catch up session earlier today.
Good.
And I talked to Tommy Sock on text too.
Yeah. I heard he's doing well.
Yeah, he's got that baby, man. I can't imagine being tired and having a baby.
I can't either, man.
Jeez.
I mean, I got a 10-year-old, and it's difficult, man.
Yeah.
Hey, so did you see this other news story about the military? Since we're on the military, before we get off the military topics, so the Navy's having a problem. This is so funny. I'm sorry. Okay, let me get it together. Okay, so you've heard about all these pirate attacks from the Houthi pirates, right, in Yemen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Navy successfully shot down like 40 drones, right? Have you heard that? Seen that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. With $2 million missiles. Those drones are disposable $1,000 fucking drones. And so they just went back to Congress and said, we need low-tech warfare solutions now, or we're going to be broken a month. Every missile they've launched to take down these drones costs between $1 to $2 million per firing.
Good God.
To take down these $1,000 disposable drones, makeshift, even if they're $1,000, right?
Wow. How ridiculous is that, man?
Isn't that insane? We have teched ourselves out of a solution that doesn't cost.
Hey, Bear joins us in the room. What's up, Bear? Go take Alma out, would you?
There you go.
Oh man, yeah, that's ridiculous, man. There's got to be a cheaper, easier solution.
Isn't that funny though? Can you believe when I read that, I was like, I could totally believe that. I could totally believe that.
Of course. It goes back to remember the 80s and you know, $1 million toilet seat and $500,000 hammer.
Yes, for space that this woman just lost. Didn't that were you on when we were talking about that? I think the other day we were talking about the lady who the two women who did the spacewalk on the space station. You may not remember.
I don't remember, but that doesn't mean anything.
So two women did a spacewalk on the space station a couple weeks ago and dropped $100,000 tool bag.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah, and the Japanese astronaut trying to photograph Mount Fuji from space catches it. Google it. You gotta Google it. You gotta see it. Japanese astronaut catches tool bag. Women drop because a man wasn't with them to catch it.
So did they do like this?
I don't know what they did.
They
put a diaper on and drove across the country to shoot their lover.
That's all American right there.
Isn't that what women astronauts do?
When they're not blowing up.
Yeah,
literally.
Right. What was Kristen McCall's eye color? Blue, one blue this way, one blue that way. Remember those? How many astronauts do you fit in a dune buggy? 9, 2 in the seat, 7 in the ashtray.
What shampoo did she use?
Head and shoulders, right? Or how do you know she didn't have dandruff? They found her Head and Shoulders, right?
Yeah.
Right. What was I forget the mission specialist, his name. You know, oh god, I can't remember, but they used to say what were his last words. What's this button for? and then do you remember NASA needs another 7 astronauts?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was sitting in shop class freshman year when that happened.
Oh, dude, I remember being in school. We watched it.
Well, and everybody was crying, and I'm like, I don't want to be a dick, but I mean, I'm not gonna cry over it.
You see, you were older. You knew what was going on. I remember being in 4th grade. It was either 4th or 6th grade. But I was in 4th or 6th grade, and we were like, "That was awesome!" And they were like, "Turn it off," right? You know, because we didn't know. You know what I mean? The class I was in, we were too young. We were too young because I remember going home talking about how awesome it was on TV, and my dad explaining that was actually true. I didn't know it was true.
That's awesome that you thought it was awesome.
Oh, all of us did. The teacher, I remember our teacher covering her mouth and then looking at us, and then remember the TVs were up in the corner?
Yeah.
Couldn't really reach it. So she I remember her reaching to get it, and she got it and turned it off. And then the principal came over, and I don't remember really anything after that, but I remember everybody whoa, and then she's like, holy crap, and ran over to, good on her for realizing it, and not being caught up in the moment. But
I remember thinking, man, that's fucked up, but it wasn't like, I didn't get emotional.
That's what you sign on for, right? I mean, that's what you sign on for. You're an astronaut.
I was either a freshman or sophomore. I don't remember which year it was, but I mean, I had known from a very young age that I was going into the military. I just knew it. It was something I was going to do. So exactly to your point, it's what you sign on to do. You accept those risks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I guess maybe I'm a dick, but that's why I wasn't all torn up over it.
I remember we were at a training, a contract training, right? So it was specialized, and we flew out to it. Stayed at a compound for a couple of weeks, and I remember somebody asking the guy, what's the secret to being the first person, in the scenario, to not get knocked. And he was like, take a deep breath and hope it's not in the face. There's no secret. He's like, if it were easy, everyone would do it.
That's right.
And so, but I remember he stopped the class and he's like, you really need to solve this now. Because you can't be thinking about this there.
Right.
And
Hey.
there's no shame in saying, I don't know if that's me.
It's when it's your time, man. You have absolutely zero control over it.
And I think some people accept that and understand it, and others, struggle and defy it. And I believe that that's what he was getting at. If you haven't accepted the job you have and the risk associated with it, then maybe you ought to rethink what you're doing, because this is for people who understand what's happening, and they're not. These are questions that do not come up.
I'll be
especially
perfectly
before
honest with you. My whole mindset changed after I had a family.
Sure, because you no longer live for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, that's natural. You belong to more than yourself.
I was one wild idiot. I had accepted my death many, many, many years ago. So whatever. I was going out, man. I was going to go out with a blaze of glory, hopefully dying in combat. That was what my mindset was. Things change once you get married and have kids, man.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, Andy, that, like the rings of a tree trunk, that tell the story of a tree, your corduroy looks like that.
Damn.
The deeper we look inside that one eye, we
Wow.
would see stories.
You don't understand how much truth there really is to that.
I learned that term. When I worked at the jail.
Oh.
See, in jail, you get your corduroy stretched.
Oh.
They don't say the other stuff. They always try to keep those terms from the detectives.
Right. So Bear says there's also the women firefighters in Canada that started the Canadian wildfires.
That is hilarious. They tried to cover that up and got busted. Oh, that's hilarious. Or how about the women's soccer team that just got smoked by the retirees?
I didn't hear. I hadn't heard either story.
Oh yeah. So the Canadian women firefighters, they did a control blaze to show that the women can fight fires just as well as the men, and well, there you go.
There you have it, sports fans.
Hey, I'll call you back to you. And I bring this up all the time, but John McEnroe, right, when he said,
oh yes,
which one of the Williams twins, Serena Williams, was she the best player in the world? And he said, in a woman player, yes. And the PBS reporter, why do you have to qualify it with woman? And he said, what, you mean compared to men too? And she said, yes. He said, oh, no, maybe she's like 230. Right. And then the lady was like, really? And she's like, yes. He's like, it's a different game. And anyway, he got flack for that for a bunch of times. And then finally, the last interview he had on ESPN, because he was trying to promote a book he wrote, the last interview he had, he said, look, man, as they were getting on him, would he retract his statement? He said, look, maybe she's up a little bit higher than 230, maybe because she's played for big prize money before. And that's a pressure. That's something you have to consider. He goes, but against the men, I don't know. I don't see her breaking 100. He goes, and I'll tell you what, there's an easy way to find out.
Yeah.
And then that stopped it all.
Yep.
Because he's right. There is an easy way to find out. No one's interested in the answer.
We can't have that. No, because that would prove once and for all that, well, we're right.
Well, how about the Marine Corps, right? When Rumsfeld came out and said, you will every was it Rumsfeld? I may not have been Rumsfeld. But they said every combat unit is going to explore its combat effectiveness of adding women. And if you can prove that it will deteriorate your combat effectiveness and bring it to Congress, then we will not mandate it. The Marine Corps proved it. Go Google it. Go look it up. The Marine Corps commissioned an independent study, and the all-male units smoked the mixed units. It wasn't even close. They brought results to Congress, and the Secretary of Defense said, do it anyway.
Yep.
We don't care. So it's never been, about lethality or various other things, that they do this stuff with. It's always been about, these DEI principles that they impose. And as evidenced by the Marine Corps study, they don't care. They don't care if it degrades capability. They don't care.
Clearly, look at the state of our military right now.
Do you remember our chaplain? Who was our chaplain in Japan?
Dude, I pissed off.
Not the tall one.
No, the short.
The one. Yeah, the one. Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
Very nice. Yeah. He's, he got angry at me as well over some issues, but I thought he was a very nice guy. He had the courage of his convictions, and I respect that. I didn't agree with a lot of his things. But he said he was in Lejeune during the study and had not participated in it, but observed it. And he said it was rigged. And I said, how was it rigged? And he said, well, the equipment and gear is sized for males versus females. He said, number one. He said, and number two, he said they put the strongest and best on the men's teams and didn't exactly give the women, they gave the women like suppo guys and stuff, like they didn't give them O3s or whatever.
Well, every Marine's a rifleman.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, okay? So what are you saying? We're going to spend billions more on men and women's equipment? I thought we're all the same anyway.
Right.
Well, why do you need different equipment? I'm told by reliable sources on The View that we are equal and they are just as good, right? If not better at everything, right?
Right.
I think, well, who just said one of these idiot loudmouth Hollywood stars, I think women should run the planet now. Men haven't really done a good job, Okay, sure. All right.
Go
for that.
Anyway.
Dude, let me tell you something. No matriarchal society has ever survived history. Can you name one? No. Okay. If there were an island of Amazon women, like in Wonder Woman, the comic book, dolphins would come out of the ocean and take over because they'd know it was naturally wrong. They'd be like, right at me. And then be like back in the ocean, like swim away,
Was it the
whatever.
drunk chaplain?
Could have been. I don't know. I don't know if he drank.
I know he was a very left-leaning individual.
Oh, extremely. But nice guy. I enjoyed talking to him about scholarly topics and issues, and I lost touch with him over Facebook. When I dropped, I lost touch with a lot of people when I got rid of social media.
I didn't. I mean, I got along with him just fine. We definitely had some heated debates, but I don't hold any ill will towards him or anything like that.
No. Yeah, I know. But I know what you mean. I mean, it was frustrating sometimes talking to him about stuff, but political. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. So I had an interesting theory, right? We were talking about Trump last week, and I had an interesting theory.
Go on.
Talking to our guy.
Wait, the EO. Wait, whoa, Bear. Wait, what? The EO violated?
Oh wait, no, not February. No, I was there. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not repeating it on the air.
Oh, I need to know this story, man.
All right, maybe I will repeat it on the air.
No names.
So very, 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 I want to be very clear about this. I said none of this. I stood there. There was an entire crowd. There were people far higher ranking than me there, okay? Far higher ranking than me there. It is Black History Month. And the chaplain comes out to provide his blessing. And or was it Asian Pacific? Was it Asian month that he talked about it? I'm waiting for you, Bear. I know you're listening. Tell me, because it is important. It is important to know one or the other. Were we on Asian Pacific Islander month, or were we on? I know what happened. But it does change a little bit. Okay. So we're at Asian Pacific. Okay, here it comes. Asian Pacific Islander. We are outside, okay? It's at the gazebo. The chaplain is going to offer his blessing. He starts talking about how beautiful and great the month is for the Asian Pacific Islanders and how the blacks just get Feb. He says it just like that. Just get February and a terrible month.
I think I remember that.
And he's like, but this is a beautiful day. He's like, I don't even know why we do that in February. Like, he's just going on, and everyone is just horrified for like 2 seconds.
Was that the year I did the judo demonstration?
You did the judo demonstration.
I remember that. Oh,
yes.
My God.
And we were all just like, and he's like, yeah, it's cold. There's that. Why would you want that? Like, this is a beautiful month. And we're all like, like that had no bearing on anything. He just pulled it out of a hat.
Yeah, I remember that now. Holy smokes,
Now,
man.
I talked to him one time in the hallway. and he went high and to the right. I think he had issues with the Navy's chaplaincy and its promotion system and the DEI initiatives going on at the time, because he was looking at promotions, and a very large constituency of people were not being promoted. Okay, but white Baptists were not being promoted. So he showed me the promotion list for the last like 3 years, and it is a very obvious trend that they are not promoting a certain type of person, and in the interests of diversity. And so I guess he had a right to be grieved, but I think where he went wrong, and where I was fortunate enough in my life to have mentor like like a friend of ours, Bolton, we know, I'm not mad. I wouldn't be mad at the people. I'm mad at the game.
Right, man.
Right. And if I remember being upset about the Mafia, right? And my boy said, "Are you upset at the Mafia, or are you upset white people don't have it as on lockdown like that?" And I said, "I'm upset white people don't have it as lockdown like that." Right. And it changed my entire perspective, and I no longer bore ill will, and I had much healthier, better relationships, and that day I grew as a person when I realized, yeah, you know what? I'm not mad at them.
That's why I always say, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah. And so anyway, he bore issues, and he was mad at the players, because I remember one day, like I said, he went high and to the right on Muslim preachers in the chaplaincy, and I was like, this is in the hallway.
Yeah. Let's go somewhere else, or let's not talk about it.
I didn't want to talk about it because I had just asked him if this all came about, me asking him if there was a church, if there was a charity outside the gate that we could donate canned food to. That's how that came about.
Wow.
He went high and to the right on that, and how the Japanese are a culture that don't require our handout or charity, and it's insulting to even ask a charity if they would want canned goods from our organization. And then I was like, I'm just asking you, you're the chaplain, I don't care whether these kids eat or not, and then that's when he started going off about the promotions.
Oh boy.
Because I learned early on, when you talk to him, you have to lock him out quickly. So when he started going on that, I had to let him know I have no interest in what road you're going down. I don't care. I'm looking for a place to put the cans, whether it's in People's Clouds or the fucking Bay. I don't give a shit. Right. And anyway, oh God, I'm getting these FCC fines left and right. But I did end up, just so you know, everyone, I did end up finding a charity to give canned goods to, and he was absolutely wrong. And we ended up supporting them the following year again. So that guy.
For the life of me, I can't recall what he looks like. I remember that incident.
He was a little bit taller. I want to say grayish side hair. I don't know. I mean,
there's no doubt I would know him if I saw him.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, he was a lieutenant commander.
I've only met, I could probably count on one hand over my 30-year career the number of chaplains that I actually liked that weren't freaking weirdos.
Oh, I met 2 that weren't complete garbage.
And that hand would not be filled up. Oh, right. Yeah.
Let's get the last 30 in.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? How are you, man?
Dallas traffic and poor data.
No worries.
Yeah, I apologize about that, gentlemen. So, I made sure I made it. So I'm happy to be here. How's everyone this evening?
We're doing good. I guess we have to stop talking bad about you now.
It doesn't stop anybody else. It doesn't stop anybody else.
Right?
It's funny. We were just talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just saying, don't hate the player, hate the game, man. That's what we were just talking about.
Right.
Well, welcome, my friend, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brooks, Mr. George Brooks. I'm glad that you made it, because we're just we're struggling.
Right. Well, I actually had a blowout on the way here. So yeah,
Oh no,
worse for wear, but I'm all right. So yeah,
good.
but I had to
Good.
be on. I've really been looking forward to this.
Well, I'm super happy to
George,
have you. Truth be told, we were bummed. But if you go back and you'll watch the beginning of the show, we did say, you know what, things happen, and if we'll get you back on at another time, whatever the case may be. But hey, you're here,
Right?
so life is great.
It is. It is.
So, can you tell all the two listeners, maybe three, I don't know, a little bit about yourself, sir?
Right. Well, I'm a mental health advocate. I began to notice I had mental health problems about age 7. Parents, having grown up in a Black household at that time, they weren't antiquated in their thinking, so I got help for it. Due to a really bad, emotionally abusive relationship with my father, and due to a really poor educational system, I ended up going through cycles of addiction in life. And throughout those cycles, I went through divorce trauma, custody battles, bad breakups, chronic health issues, all these things within like a 5 to 10 year period, including the 10-year addiction to cocaine. But through kind of looking at myself in the mirror and making myself accountable, I was able to build a process to kind of bring myself out of that to where I am today. And I started a nonprofit called Meta Association about 5 years ago. And we promote mental health, fight recidivism, and promote fatherhood as a way of making sure that no one else has to experience or be in the position that I was in at the point where there was no understanding, where there were no resources, because sometimes that's all a person needs to keep going. And we have a duty as people to try to inspire those around us, not by bullying them, not by forcing beliefs on them, not by being dogmatic or draconian, but by sharing our testimony. And what I mean by that is what we've been through.
I couldn't agree more. We spend more time, I say we, but collectively as a nation, and I don't know if it's globally or not, but we spend more time tearing each other down instead of building each other up.
Right, because it's easy to do and it's profitable. I mean, the news industry is basically entertainment. They're trying to get ratings just like every other show. So a lot of what we get is going to be more on the pessimistic side, because if you report that there's an increase in crime, gun sales go up. If you report where there's a reduction in crime, well, what does that do? So it's whatever keeps money going. And I hate to say it about not just American society, but all society, misery is profitable.
That's for sure. I remember, I'm not going to give away my age, but I remember as a kid watching the news, and there were, I'm not going to say it was filled with, but there were positive stories, upbeat stories. It's you don't see that really much anymore.
Well, you remember what they call those, right? Those were called their human interest stories, and we have a lack of human interest in today's society. We're interested in clicks. We're interested in followers. We're not interested in humans anymore, and that's where a lot of this problem comes in. So, and I don't know how we get back to that, but, all I can advocate for is good mental health and good emotional health on an individual level. And maybe in time, that'll kind of reverse the kind of, thinking that we have, and we can get more to human interest.
Yeah. Facts, man.
So, George, I worked at a jail for a couple of years. And that was one thing we all noticed. I ran the health clinic at the Allegheny County Jail for a couple of years, 12th largest jail east of Mississippi. So we had a pretty healthy population. But I always looked at whenever I would get a grievance as an opportunity to lift up, and they would get mad at me when I would spend time educating inmates on why the answer is no. So many times they would go down and say no, and it would just frustrate the inmate. And he's sitting there with nothing to do but think about how you said no. So how angry is he stewing in that place? So I would go down and I would say no. And here's why. It doesn't work that way. And then I would take the time to explain how insurance works, or how things go, or why they're getting these letters, or what questions they should be asking their doctor. It took time. It took away from my day. And I'll tell you what, and here's the funny part. I got sued by one guy. No good deed goes unpunished, right?
Exactly.
But I didn't let it deter me. But just if you could comment, about your experiences with the system. But my experience was they didn't have time, and when I showed that you can make the time, that we can't have that.
Well, my involvement with the legal system has been limited to when I was doing prison ministry, and also I've known people that have been incarcerated, and I work in the area of recidivism. I actually taught a job
Yeah.
readiness course for the justice affected. So, one thing that you will find in this situation is that I personally believe in the transitional programs they do for people getting out of jail, there need to be a lot more social and communication training, because the way that they have to communicate while incarcerated is totally different than the way they have to communicate now out in the real world. And many aren't given that transition or time to adjust to where they can be successful.
Wow, that's deep. Actually, But again, I have not worked in that system, so I'm just sponging off of what you guys are saying right now.
But it translates to any system, socially, as far as gender issues. What you want to do is try to give everybody an even playing field. Because right now, let's be honest, some people have started a deficit in terms of resources, in terms of access to care, and all those things.
Sure.
So they have to work 2 times as hard to get half as much. That's one thing I've been told about myself, George. You have to work 4 times as hard to get half as much. But what we need to try to do is create parity. And so what's a good place to start other than those that have been incarcerated, so that when they come out, they have as good a chance of getting that same job, barring that they're compliant, barring that they're not re-offending, barring that they're doing their best. They should have as good a chance of getting that job as anyone else.
George, what I found in my experience was, and my experience is limited, right? Yeah, I did work at a large jail, but I haven't been everywhere, and I didn't spend 20 years there. It's just a couple. But in my experience, 60% of those patients, 60% of those people in jail belonged in a mental institution. And had they had been in a mental institution, or had they had been in some type of monitoring or medication monitoring program, we wouldn't be having these issues.
Well, you know who the number one provider of mental health care in the entire United States is, right?
I do not.
I'd say Bureau of Prisons.
The American Penal System, the prison system.
Yeah, probably.
And that's just the bastardization of the concepts and tenets of this country, is to try to provide for people. We don't have enough state beds. And one experience I had for a case I was advocating in my hometown of Memphis, I think it was MMHI, was a joke.
Yeah.
Trying to get someone admitted there. So not only do we have lack of access in terms of actual beds,
yes,
we have a lack of access in terms of beds in general. And one thing too, I want to speak on, I have a son that's bipolar. And just last week, we tried to get him inpatient. He's going through something. And and I'm bipolar as well. But, we tried to get him admitted, and just the criteria now for getting people admitted when they need care psychiatrically seems to be more predetermined, or not predetermined, more determined by the insurance companies than what a standard of care should represent.
Well, they don't that's our experience. It's taking forever to get people out of jail into the mental institution when they've been found incompetent. It's taking forever to get them found incompetent. It's taken forever to do all these things. And then, what was funny was one of the advising members of our jail, hired contractors, was the prior CEO who shut down 2 of the mental health hospitals in Pittsburgh, and is proud of it. Proud that blames Republicans for cutting the funding, and she was the savior who came in and shut them down because they were miserable conditions. And here's what I think. And I'm just going to throw this out there. She did that in the early 80s. It is 2024. It's not going to be Nurse Ratched. We can monitor. We can build these institutions again. We can make it easier for family to help get other family members. We can figure these things out, to where people aren't on the street missing medications or threatening family members, to not take medications or various other things. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I think that's one thing that we did glean from the pandemic, was that it really got people talking about mental health, because you had people without diagnosable conditions dealing with family, dealing with cabin fever, all the pressures that came with the pandemic. And I think some people think, man, if I went through this, what does somebody that's got bipolar or schizophrenia have to deal with? It got us thinking about self-care. It's got us having these conversations. It's got people in the Black community having conversations where generationally we were not allowed to even discuss it openly. So it's been a lot of progress, and that's And I feel like God has put me in position right now to kind of come in at this time, based on my testimony and my experience. But in terms of the prison system, there's so much that needs to be done because we aren't sure how well people are medicated while they're incarcerated. We need to do the transition of coming from a medicated state while incarcerated to having to manage that on the outside for our mentally ill incarcerated people. And the thing is, if you really look at the cause of their incarceration is usually related to their mental illness.
Yes.
Even if
Yes.
even if it's related to the addiction is tied to the mental illness.
Yes.
It's always tied to the mental illness. And that's why we need more mental health courts. We need more intervention. I'm an advocate. If someone has a court case and call me. 901-631-4300. You know, we have to get out there and advocate. We have to get out there and speak up for it because a lot of times those with mental illness do not know or have the skills to articulate what's going on with them. I do. Yeah. I'm bipolar. I have PTSD. I have DID, but I can tell you and convey what I'm feeling, and that's a gift. So I want to use it and use my trauma and use my pain to not only heal myself, but help as many people as I possibly can.
This has been a soapbox issue of mine for years. Man, right. See, it's almost like you were meant to be on this show. We've talked about this many times, but I get it. I have PTSD myself, anxiety, depression, so that's why I'm a huge advocate for it as well. In the mental health system, let's just face it, man, it's not where it needs to be. I think we're getting there. I think breaking down the stigma of saying mental health or mental anything. I think we're gaining some ground on that avenue. Long way to go, but once we break that stigma completely, then it's okay to talk about your mental wellness and treating it as a preventive measure as opposed to treating the injury once it's now occurred.
Exactly, because I'm an advocate for people just going to see a therapist like 3 times a year, just to see what's there, just like you go for get your vitals checked. Go for a physical once or twice a year. Do some sort of mental or emotional checkup on yourself with a licensed professional. I think once a year would be good for people. We need to advocate for that. I think the job should have more mental health days available. Not where if you need a mental health day, you can go out and advocate for it. I've spoken to legislators. I was campaign manager for my friend of mine in Memphis, and will be for the Kendall Richardson, who's running for mayor of Dallas. I'm actually out there in the community doing the work. And I think having been in the system in so many ways, I've never been incarcerated. I don't have a criminal record, but having been out there in the system in terms of being without insurance coming up and dealing with mental health care, being inpatient several times, raising a son with a mental illness, it's my duty to try to use that to try to help people. But I have techniques that I need people to network with, and I want people to collaborate with, and I want people to share ideas with as ways that we can maybe have cost-effective ways to help more people. And it doesn't take a lot of action. And during the pandemic, my nonprofit survived. A lot of my friends that had nonprofits didn't. So let's support our nonprofits. They can do what the government it shouldn't be permitted or expected to do.
I agree with that. Amen. Amen.
Right. It's not the government's responsibility to necessarily provide for our community care that we should be doing as good Christians or good people or just human beings in general anyway.
Well, you're closer to the ground. You can adapt and meet the needs of the community faster. You're there.
But let's not forget that everyone, everything has a protocol in life, and part of us being human beings. And I have a strong faith in God. So if you don't believe, that's cool, fine too.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're all interlocked to take care of each other. That's the purpose. That's the purpose of us being here. At least that's my purpose. So just like I might be able to be boots on the ground. If you can't be, and all you can do is offer prayer and a $20 donation, then that's fine. It's not a pissing contest. Just do your part to try to make the world a better place. If all you can do is give I'm from Memphis. St. Jude is a wonderful organization. My nonprofit, Meta Association, is a wonderful organization. If you can do $20 a month to them, great. I'm an NPR lover. Donate to NPR too, we have to understand our world needs to be where we rely more on each other as brothers and sisters to take care of each other instead of the government intervention. Now, the government, I feel like should provide finances for those nonprofits to operate and do those programs, yes. But we shouldn't expect the government to administer the medicine when that's not their job.
Stay out of the business. Stay out of the business. Big government, stay out. Let the
that's how you
nonprofits.
keep them out of your business. That's how you keep them out of your business.
That's right.
I'm socially liberal, but I'm a fiscally conservative, so I kind of fit in a weird space politically, but I'm there.
I'm right there with you. That's exactly me to a T. I want your thoughts on peer-to-peer counseling. Good, bad, indifferent?
Depends on the training, depends on the individual doing it. It's just like people that go into the ministry. I'm trying to go into the ministry right now. I'm raising funds to go into the ministry for my classes. If it's meant for you to do it, it's for you. But if you try to do something and it's not for you, everybody that went through something can't be a teacher. If you look at sports, sometimes the best coaches were the most mediocre players. Jordan was a horrible coach. Can't coach. Great player, great coach. But you may have someone like Steve Kerr, not diminishing him. Great coach. It just depends. So just because we all walk a path doesn't mean, I went through addiction. That means I can be a peer-to-peer coach. It depends on what compels you and what your motivation is.
Sure.
It depends on your patience level. It depends on where you are with your journey. But as a theory, I love it. I love it.
What are your thoughts on the effectiveness of peer-to-peer counseling?
I think it can be very effective depending on the relationship, depending on the chemistry between the peers, depending on what their experiences are, and how transparent they can be about what they went through. You don't want to have a peer that's trying to counsel someone else who still has such shame around how they behaved when they were in the throes of addiction or mental illness that they can't talk about it. You can't have barriers. You can have boundaries, but you can't have barriers. So, and I actually completed a peer-to-peer program a couple of years ago, and I found it enlightening. It gave me another resource to where, hey, if something's going on, this is another person I can call. And the thing is, collaboration is the new philanthropy. And in no way is there more evident than in the nonprofit world, because I realize in running a nonprofit, we live and die based on collaborations for grant money to institute programs. So that's something that's really important. I really want to be a strong and staunch advocate for our nonprofits.
I really wish I could find something to argue with you about, but I agree with everything you're saying.
Okay, let's argue about something. Was the Flash movie good or bad?
I haven't seen it yet.
It was okay.
Yeah, it's real. It was real kind of meh.
I thought it was okay. But so if you so I went back and watched Superman versus Batman again. And the second time around it was a little bit better. But what I felt was, we needed another Superman movie to care about him more.
Right. But the DCEU is already gone now, so they're already
their animated universe is amazing, and their television universe is amazing. Their movies, they just can't seem to get together.
Yeah. I'm like a lifelong Batman fan, so I love the
George, I'm gonna give you the little peek.
Awesome. Oh, okay.
I'm a big nerd, man.
I just moved, right? And I'm getting my place together. And the only thing I've been able to find was my Goku statue.
Yeah. I got
to get another base for it because the base melted.
Let me see if I can aim it down there. There's my Dragon Ball shelf.
Oh, my goodness.
But this is over years, man. It's over years. I was patient. I waited for sales, and I took a lot of flack from my wife.
I got nothing.
See, I'm an otaku. I used to manage the anime store in college. So I had over 5,000 VHS tapes back in the days of fan subs.
Well, that's all VHS behind me.
Oh yeah. I got rid of my. Now I wish I hadn't, but that would have been too much stuff to lug around over the years.
Oh, it's my wife. Every time we moved in the military, my wife was like, "Why? You can't even find your VCR." Right. Then I found one for sale, and I bought two, and she was so mad. I mean, they were only like $50. It's so cheap, like a couple years ago. But I bought two of them, and she's like, "Why two?" And I was like, "Well, I don't think they're gonna make these anymore."
Are you gonna back up your VHS collection?
What's up?
You gonna back up your VHS collection?
So here's what's fun. I'll tell you a funny story about that.
Hey, before you get into that, Lou, are you okay with going over a little bit? Because I'm really enjoying this conversation.
I'm okay with going over a little bit. Yeah, it's fine. So I'll tell you a funny story. So I did burn I did burn a bunch. I used to have over 500 VHSs, right? Just over time, just picking them up one at a time. And then, again, as the medium was phased out, they were cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So, a bunch of these I bought for like $5 or like $3,
Right.
So long story.
What
genre
is it?
Science fiction, action. Those are my two big ones. I like to see somebody else get beaten life. At the end of the day, I just want to see someone else get it. But to tell you the funny story, so some of these I did not know this, right? But when you rip VHS to DVD, you have to let it play.
Right.
It has to play. Some of these have security features. Okay, Tron doesn't show its ugly freaking head until 3/4 into the movie.
Right.
So I tried recording it and walked away 4 times to come back, and it took me 4 times to figure out. That's 2 hours each time. So it took me 8 hours over the course of a week to figure out that the security setting was 3/4 into the tape. Finally, I just sat there and I was like, I'm going to watch this damn film again.
Yeah, because I had like the Golden VCRs. And see, right over there, the anime store, I would rent anime because back then that was right at the cusp of DVD. Yeah. So I would rent, anime VHS tapes and just copy them all. And I had like over 500 for a while.
Yeah.
I had all that kind of stuff. But
that was the other thing.
I'm a big wrestling fan too. So what can we argue about that?
I can't really argue much about wrestling. I haven't watched in a while. But what I will tell you is
okay. Now we can argue. You said it's fake. All right.
Hold on, before we get there. When I was, I guess I was 9 or 10 years old. We lived in Alabama, and my dad was military, so I was always the new kid, right?
Right.
Well, I can remember getting in fist fights in Mobile, Alabama, for saying wrestling's fake. Now we can go on.
But you know why? Because everybody knew it was fake. But it's like when you believe in Santa Claus, you don't want everybody to tell you, he's not real. We know he's not real. Just let us believe it and enjoy it.
Do you see when John Stossel got slapped in the face?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I saw that.
It's real.
Yeah, but people think that wrestling fans think that it's real. No, we never thought that.
Right.
Everything says we don't want to get told every 5 seconds. That's entertainment. Let us get lost in it. Please.
Well, I think I'm a little bit older than you. So back then,
how old are you?
I'm in my 50s.
Oh yeah, okay. Wow, you look young, dude.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
You're young, but I didn't think you were. Yeah, cool.
So anyway, back then they really believed it was real. But I will say this. They are amazing athletes, man.
Right. And that's what I love about it. I know it's predetermined. Now, the guys do really get hurt. Sometimes they are actually making a little bit of contact. This is the way, because I actually work for a wrestling company.
Well, cool.
I read a couple of their books. I read Hulk Hogan's book, and I read The Rock's
Mick Foley's book was great.
When Hulk Hogan,
Have a nice day.
Well, I was just gonna say, Hogan pointed out that in the 70s, and even through the 80s and 90s, you don't really make a lot of money from the TV. That's all Vince McMahon. You make your money from merchandising, T-shirts, and sales. He's like, and so if you have an up and coming star, that's taking away from your T-shirt sales. He said, so in the late 70s, early 80s, it was not uncommon for a guy to come off the ropes 2 inches over and hurt your knee by accident, or twist your ankle by accident. Anything to put you out for 30 days to get your name off the circuit.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it wasn't so much that. It's more so like you see it with a lot of guys nowadays. They do stuff that looks athletically good, but physically is very detrimental and stupid to the long-term health. And that's not what's compelling to me as a lifelong wrestling fan. Seeing some guy do 4 or 5 flips in a row means nothing to me. I want to see a match that tells a story.
Yes.
And just give me something. Give me a good work match. With guys that don't make it look fake, because all that flipping and stuff makes it look fake. I grew up on Memphis wrestling with Jerry Lawler. It looked a certain way. Yeah. So I think people love saying, it's fake. Like, we don't know. That's cool, but can I enjoy that? Because it kills me when people like regular sports fans kind of crack on wrestling fans. I'm like, you're doing the same thing. It's just a different fandom.
Yeah.
Oh, I think here. Let me ask you this question. Then this is something I've been saying a lot. you know, you have stars, right? You have stars like Taylor Swift and all these other people.
Mhm.
I think, and I'm just throwing this out there, but I think WWE fame is something on an entirely another level. It's
Right.
not Taylor Swift on a concert tour, you know, two times a month she hits 50,000. These guys are hitting 10, 15, 20,000 crowds screaming their name every Monday night.
Right.
Every
Right. Yeah.
that has to do a number on you, man. That
Well,
has
let me
to
tell
be
you
a new
this.
level of fame, you
Let
know?
me throw you some figures this way. I grew up in Memphis wrestling. Memphis metropolitan area around that time was about 700,000. They'll be wrestling at our Coliseum every Monday night from the local show. Every Monday night for a while, you had 10, 11,000 people there every Monday night, same city.
Screaming your name.
Memphis would have like a 70 share in ratings just in that local market. That means 70%. I think it
Yeah.
means 70. Yeah. You know what a 70 share is. So that's how ingrained in some parts of the countries, especially those that grew up with smaller territories, are ingrained because they saw like Jerry Lawler is a legend in Memphis.
Yes.
I might not know who he is, but he's an absolute legend in Memphis because
Yeah.
for 30 years he was there. So
Jerry
when
the
you
King Lawler.
yeah, and I'm going to stick up for wrestling fans because I'm actually working in the industry and I've been a lifelong fan. And
Yes.
you know, they become part of your community. It's too big now sometimes. Sometimes I like just going to just a regular indie show and just sitting there and just chilling. But sometimes you feel like the spectacle. Sometimes you do. But if that match isn't good in the ring, it doesn't matter how many fireworks, how many celebrities you bring in. If that match does not do what it's supposed to do in the ring, it does not matter.
So I have to tell you, I picked the side I picked just for the sake of being devil's advocate, but
Right.
I don't follow it any longer. I don't follow much of anything any longer. But you know, back in the day, yeah, I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah. And it's
I
all
knew it
about-
was fake, but it was the stories. You know, I just watched a documentary recently on the Iron Sheik.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really good documentary.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. It was really well produced. It really got in depth and things like that. I watched a lot of shoot interviews, wrestlers talking about stuff like that. In my public speaking, I'll tell you something I do in my public speaking. I just did this earlier today. I'll go back and watch old like classic wrestling promos and look at their cadence.
Yes.
And look at things. So when I speak publicly, okay, what can I glean from there that I can incorporate into this? So I try to look for inspiration everywhere.
I just watched a documentary on Paul Heyman.
Right.
It was fascinating, and what happened with ECW and the amount of like just how there is, you know, half hate him and the other half are like, you know, they knew what was up, you know, like they love him, and you're like, wow, you know, and what Heyman did, and
I'll have to check that one out.
yeah, my name is Paul Heyman.
George, do you do any impersonations of any wrestlers?
No, not any
That'd
very
be
good
awesome.
ones that I'll do without a shot
Not
or two
any
of
good
Jack in me. Give me a shot or two of Jack and water in me. I'll do impressions all night long,
Yeah.
but not too many fellas.
I'll be right back. Let me get that for
Karaoke
you.
that way, yeah.
So what about you, Lou?
No, I don't do any, but so so funny. I want to go back to the anime real quick. I remember the early days of the like when I first like started watching. You know, in I want to say it was the late 90s. You had all the old classics like Fist of the North Star, The Professional, Duke Togo.
Akira,
Golden
everybody knows
13.
Akira.
Yeah, you know, Akira. You know, you had all those really good films, and you know, what's come out now? I'm not gonna. I'm really enjoy. It's like you know, some genres have gone down. I feel like anime's really come up. I mean, the storytelling's really gotten good. I mean, in depth. Like you have Record of Lodoss War and all these other really detailed, in-depth stories. And they're cool, and the action is cool. Like the what's going on and what's happening is really neat. I mean, they think they really that's a genre that's gone nothing but up.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is, that genre has so many different actual genres of different.
Yeah. Within, right.
Everyone watch. I tell you, an anime film. This film has actually made me shed tears at certain points in my life. It's called Grave of the Fireflies. Lovely. It's about I don't want to spoil it, but it's a World War II story.
Yeah.
And it doesn't vilify anyone. It doesn't go on any one side or the other. It just presents a story as it is, and it's a beautiful film. Now, if you like,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's an old film, but it's a film that actually, one time I watched it, I shed tears because of the humanity in
Yeah.
it. So, a lot of people think anime is just guys with spiky blonde
Yeah.
hair throwing fireballs. Yeah, it is that too, because I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. But it has things that are touching. It has things that make you think.
There's a new Dragon Ball coming out, just so you know.
I know. Yeah, Dragon Ball. What's the name of it?
Buy
It's
or
coming out
pay or
next year.
something.
Yeah, where they all get turned to kids, and that might be good. It might be okay.
I don't know.
I'm a
I did
huge
like the
fan.
last movie. I love the last movie,
You
Superhero.
didn't like Superhero?
No, I loved it.
Oh, okay. Which one didn't you like?
No, I like them all, man.
I like them all. Yeah, Superhero is way better. And I'm
I
glad
love
they took
Superhero.
the time.
Raleigh was great. Beerus was great. Frieza, I was wondering, what are they going to do bringing Frieza back? That was a C-lister. And then I was like, whoa, okay, all right. I'm in. I'm sold.
But Superhero was really good. Was really,
yes.
really good.
I thought it was great. A mix
the
of
last
computer
movie
animation
I
and
saw in
everything.
theaters, which tells you how long it's been since I've been to the movies. That was the last movie I saw in theaters.
But I'll tell you, an emotional anime I saw along the lines of what you're talking about was called Weathering with You. It's a very nice story.
I think somebody at Funimation, when I went on tour, they actually suggested that to me.
So I know a guy who translates for Crunchyroll. He's hilarious.
Yeah, that's Crunchyroll. Yeah, I've been on a couple of tours at Crunchyroll now. Peggy Miller actually set me up with some tours there, private tours.
Yeah. I never got that. He remote translates. I met him at Japanese school. My wife's Japanese. My daughter attends a Japanese school twice. And he's dying over here. I'm gonna get this.
Yeah, I took Japanese in college. Yeah, I took Japanese in college.
But my daughter goes to Japanese school to stay with the culture because we live in America now and keep up with the language and everything and all this stuff. But yeah, he's at the Japanese school here in Pittsburgh. He was telling me, he was like, I asked him, I said, what the hell, man? Why did the subtitles never line up with the English? Right. And he said, because of the speed of which they have to turn out products, the English translator for the voice is like somewhere else. He's like, the person doing the subtitles is somewhere else. He said, they're not the same people. He said, that's why it doesn't line up. He goes, because different people hear different things. Are you influencing or pressuring? It's kind of like the same word, so whatever. But I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, because when y'all went on the tour of Crunchyroll, they actually let us into the voice actor booths.
Oh, that's really cool.
See that we showed where they showed us where they did the ADR, the editing, and things like that. So it was a cool experience. But I've always been a lover of Japanese culture. Like I said, I took Japanese in college. I managed an anime store. I love the stoicism that comes in samurai culture. I study stoicism every day.
I love to eat Japanese, and the food's not bad either.
Yeah, food ain't bad. I'm a huge sushi lover, but like I appreciate Miyamoto.
That's not what your wife said.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, he's a homie, man. But no, you know what? It's a wonder. Have you ever been? If you haven't been, you should go. I really enjoyed it. I'll tell you, if you go, Akihabara is the rabbit hole you can
where the
go
games
down
are
and never come back.
Yeah.
Yep. That's also the tech district, so you can see some of the cool tech. But if you've never been and you go, man, and you want to go, I would say go, pull the trigger. It's safe, it's fun, it's a good time.
I'm planning on going in 2025. I want to go to Kyoto and see the graves of the Shinsengumi. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of Shinsengumi.
Yes, I just listened to a book on it. I always thought it was like they made up stuff. It's true.
I'm a huge
and it was
fan
during
of
the Meiji period.
Well, they're buried in Kyoto at their last school. And I want to go to Kyoto for a week and then go to a week in Tokyo and maybe go to Hiroshima and come back.
Yeah. So Andy, the Shinsengumi was the last samurai corps for the Meiji period, right? During the Meiji Restoration when the emperor banned. So what happened was the Tokugawa Empire did not want foreigners coming around. So they implemented down in Osaka. Osaka was the trade port, not Tokyo. So they implemented the Shinsengumi under the mandate, hey, restore order to Edo and make it rough on the foreigners.
Right.
So they set up a system, and it's a system revolving basically around death, right? And so one of the stories by a lieutenant is hilarious because there was a guy who researched, I do a lot of the audiobooks. So he said they had such a culture of death, right? You couldn't run from a battle and you couldn't lose a battle. So
you could not borrow money. Yeah, they said you could not borrow money. You could not engage in personal funds. You could not leave a brother in the field. They had
So this right. So this dude, So this dude's cheating on this lady, right? Husband comes home, whoops his butt. He has to go back to work the next day at the Shinsengumi. They're like, "What's those bruises, buddy?" And then when he explains what happened, they're like, "Well, that sounds like a fight to me." So he had to gut himself. Right. So then they said there was a lieutenant riding, right? He's riding, and he's trying to get to this battle or something that he's trying to get to. He journaled about it, and he said 2 guys come on a wagon, and he's thinking they're going to kill me. Right? Because they're samurai. I'm a samurai. They're going to kill me. Right? That's what they're here for. Right? Because this is the Shinsengumi. This is what happens. Right? So these guys must be coming to kill me. He said they dismount and kill themselves right in front of him.
Right.
He said he comes to find out they were running from a battle, thought he was there to get them back, and decided they'd do it to restore their honor. He's like, I have no idea.
Yeah. And here's the thing about the Shinsengumi. The Shinsengumi were not a prestigious group at first. They were basically made up of farmers. And Kondo Asami was adopted by the sword master, and they went to Kyoto, and they formed what they were called the Roshi Gumi at first. So they became more material. I'm sorry, I cannot talk.
They like stuff.
Militaristic. I finally got it out. I'm sorry. But at their biggest, they had about 300 members. Their most famous battle was the Akadiya affair, where their opposing party was planning to start fires across Kyoto to distract people while they kidnapped the dignitaries and the shogun and things like
Something
that.
Something happened in a hotel too.
Yeah, that's the KDI. That was the hotel they were in. The rebels were in.
There was a huge thing at a hotel.
Right. Hijikata captured one of their informants, tortured him, found out about the attack. They went and they lost a couple members, but they're known for national heroes based off that event.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was the Meiji Emperor basically the samurai started getting smoked by the new artillery coming in. They couldn't keep up. And the Meiji Emperor was looking at it like, look, man, these foreigners aren't going to stop. So we either have to open up and start developing technologically, or we are going to get blown out of the water. And the shoguns, basically that's why they call it the Meiji Restoration, because prior to Meiji taking over from his father, the emperor really had no power. So what they did was conspire in the background to restore Meiji to power, taking it from the shoguns, and restoring sort of the emperor. So it took a lot of work in the background. And as it turns out, I just finished like an 18-hour or 32-hour book on the Meiji Restoration. And as it turns out, Meiji really didn't do much of anything except he just let the government work, because no one knew. Like they just restored the emperor's power, and he's like, that is a lot. Does the emperor really get involved in this? They were sort of figuring it out,
Hey, Brian joins us in the room. Good evening, sir. So, George, do you study any martial arts at all?
Wow. Starting about age 19, I started doing Kung Fu, and I did it for about 10 years off and on. Mm-hmm. And I haven't trained really seriously in about 5 years. That's my last serious lesson. But I've done some MMA training, some Krav Maga. I want to train with the Dog Brothers. I'm trying to network with them. They do eskrima and night fighting. But I've been a martial artist since about age 19 on and off.
That's awesome.
I figured as much.
Yeah, you're the first person to ask me that. So, yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe something that comes through. I don't know.
Well, your fascination with the Japan and the time period, number one. And Lou and I I've been a lifelong martial artist. I started probably when I was 12 or so. And Lou and I both trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've taught judo for many years, and it's all I could sense it, man. So I had to ask.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So
because that's something as martial artists people don't understand. Once you do it, especially if you do it over years, it becomes part of you.
Yeah, you're stuck. You'll lock
your
up.
Psyche and everything, and a lot of people don't get that, because I will never stop claiming to be a martial artist. Yeah. Even if I never train again, in my heart, that's what I am.
That's right.
People that never did it, they don't get it. So
George, I'm gonna tell you this quick story. So people are always like, oh, your wife's Japanese, she must like help you a lot, and I'm like, no. So I'm in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm asking her, hey, what does katagatame mean? And she's like, huh? And I'm like, katagatame, what is it? And she's like, huh? I said Katagatame, and she's like, "Do you mean Katagatame?" Are you, are you effing serious? Did you just put me through that?
And I was just telling,
She's like, it's shoulder.
I was just telling a friend of mine earlier how there's really no pronunciation of R in the Japanese language. It's pronounced as a D, and they were just fascinated by that. And I was just, that's funny you bring that up. I was just having that conversation earlier today. So,
but it was just funny how she's like, me and May. She was doing it on
right.
purpose.
Right.
So George, I got in a terrible convoy accident in Japan, right? The convoy truck's wrecked. It's a long story. I'll make it longer. I'm not even going to try to tell it. Bottom line is I get an award, and in the award it says, due to my advanced knowledge of Japanese, I was able to facilitate aftercare to the Marines in the convoy. Okay. For 2 years, I look at my wife and I'm like, what does that say? She's like, I don't know. I thought you have an award. Don't you have advanced knowledge? Didn't the colonel say? Come on. He's like, what does it say? You have an award, don't you?
Right. Well,
I can 100%. I can 100% validate that.
Right. Well, I'm divorced, but I do know that wives do that. I was married for 16 years, so I'm kind of familiar with the terrain, treacherous terrain.
Right.
So I think it's about that time for our special segment. We're going to go through and highlight a veterans organization, and we'd like to invite you to stick around. We'll wrap it up right afterwards, and then don't leave, please. We want to talk to you offline a little bit.
We can say goodbye. People leave after when we do the credits, and then we're like, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I'm like, he probably thinks we're jerks. Anyway, don't take off.
Well, you are a jerk, but that's besides the point. Anyway, it's time for our Veterans Helping Veterans segment. And this week, I'm going to highlight an organization that I have highlighted in the past, but it's just such a worthwhile organization, and that's the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy. And I'm bringing that up once again because we have finalized our dates for next year's camp. So I guess it's public knowledge, so I'll just go ahead and say it's going to be basically from the 5th through the 17th. Next year. So that's of June. And if you're a veteran and you want to check it out, click on that little, there. Anyway, it's a nonprofit organization. They take veterans that are wounded, whether it's physically or mentally. They bring them together. They give them a sense of purpose and belonging once again. They give them an opportunity to engage back with their community to facilitate there smoothly, and gives them a skill set that they can actually earn money on and potentially go from a little league all the way up to pro school and potentially getting into the minor and major leagues. It's 100% free to the veteran that gets accepted. That's including airfare, hotel accommodations, meals while you're there, in addition to 100% of brand new umpire gear being donated by umpatire.com. So fantastic organization. I can promise you 100% that 98% of the money that's donated goes to the veteran. There's always a small percentage for admin costs. However, check them out. Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, woundedwarriorua.org. Check them out. Support them if you can. And that's our segment.
And we should really, and through my nonprofit Med Association, I do plan on working more on our veterans and addressing their mental and emotional health. I have a stepson that just graduated from the Air Force, and so that really hits. I'm very proud of him. And the thing is, I want to make sure now that we address their mental health on the front end, not just after a conflict. Let's make sure we're setting up coping mechanisms. Yeah, through the military to help these men and women as they venture along the journey, because a lot of times we end up picking up the pieces after they come back and realize they didn't have the care they needed. Now we're dealing with the tragedy. So we need to really do more to not only take care of our veterans in terms of benefits and economic things and opportunities, like the GI Bill is tremendous, but let's take care of their emotional and mental health as well, because they really do make sacrifices for us, and we should do better by them.
Well, once again, it's not often I'm speechless, but you got me. You had me all episode, man. Wow. George, stick around, please.
Sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I want to thank you for coming on. What a fantastic interview! It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. We were cut a little bit short through no fault of anyone, so we need to get you back on. What do you say?
Anytime.
Awesome.
Thanks, George.
Lou, I will let you close us out.
All right. Well, thank you, George. Thanks to all the people out there listening and downloading. Right, comment, click like down below. Please. Hey, but anyway, yeah, take a look at some of the past episodes. Listen to some of the other organizations we've been able to highlight. Here's some of the guests. If you want to be on the show, feel free to reach out to the website, and by all means, check out what our guests are involved in and what they're here to talk about, and follow up with them and show them your support and love for the organizations and things they're out there doing. And as always, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.